What is up, and welcome back to another episode of the Girl Games Podcast. I'm Amber P.
I'm Alexis Adams.
And for today, we're going to talk about planning tips. Planning is the name of the game when it comes to bodybuilding. If you are not a good planner, by the end of your prep, you will be, because you won't have a choice but to be. However, first, let's jump into updates. Alexis is looking lean in the face. What's going on?
So I've been getting leaner. My body fat has been going down, and the scale hasn't gone anywhere but very much. So I don't know if I said my weight last time. So I ended the off season at like 162, 161 ish. And I was 153 this morning. So the lowest I bit was 152.8. So like 10 pounds, not a huge amount. Because like my stage weight at the Olympia was like 136. So we've got some ways to go if we're going to get near that number. But it looks better, like way different at this weight now than it was last year. So it's obviously more muscle. We just don't know. I don't know where it's going to settle at the end of this.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like when she sent me her posing the other day, I was like, wow, like just the imbalance, because obviously wellness is the only division where you need to have that imbalance. So you want the lower body to be bigger than the upper body, and just like the way that your glutes are popping in the quads, it's like, yeah, you need more body fat off. But I'm just kind of like, if this is what you look like already, and you still got time, and food is still fairly in a good place, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good, good, good. It's just so hard when it's like a different body. So you're like, where is this gonna land? What is this gonna look like? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Oh, and lip update. This is
Lips look
this is
good.
it. This is as much as it's gonna settle.
That's the final product. It looks good. When I saw her in Charlotte Cup, I was like, ooh, it looks really, really good. So now we know lip flips, y'all, for the girls who were interested. I had my check-in last week. I was on my period, so weight was up. I felt big as a boat. And I sent my check in to my coach. I said, I feel big as a boat. I understand why the scale is up. However, this looks very sloppy. I feel stuffed. And she responded back, yeah, you're on your period. Keep using the food. Lift heavy. You still have 4 more weeks of your health phase. And so I was just like, that was my way of casually like trying to like get her to drop some of these carbs, but she was just like, no, I'm not doing that.
Nope.
So here's it.
Yep. Um, I have a client who is like, one of her recent check-ins, like, what is the goal as far as the diet? And I was like, well, you're coming out of a show, so it's gonna go up. And I had a different one who kind of has dieted herself, and now she's like, she did all of it, the beginning stuff herself, just kind of see where she was at and like kind of figure things out on her own. Now she's ready to hire a coach, so we're working together. And I bumped her food. She needed to come out of the hole.
Mm-hmm.
And then like couple days in, she messaged me, I just want to make sure, is this normal? I am ravenous. Like it's more fats, more carbs than she was eating. And she's like, I'm hungry always and I can deal with it. I just want to make sure that this is not an abnormality. And I was like, actually, this is fantastic.
Amazing. You're right on track, babes.
We can bump it again.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I'll confess this here with you guys since I have 4 more weeks. My biggest concern right now, I am very, very nervous because I weigh more. This is the most I've ever weighed in my life. And it's not the weight, it's just like I've never started here for a prep. So I'm like, this is going to take us longer to get down. Is my body going to respond? Is the body fat going to come off? I've never been here before, so I don't know what to expect. Since I weigh more, shouldn't we start right now? Why are you telling me 4 more weeks? That's my struggles right now.
Well, you don't necessarily need to get down to the weight that you were at, one. Two, no, it doesn't, the weight doesn't come off at the same rate every prep.
Right.
So, especially like the more excess fat you have, the faster it comes off in the beginning. So I do think that some of it's still recomp. I know that you had those 2 months where like bodybuilding was not priority, but you had many months before that and many months after that. So
So here's my other thing right now too, and I'm like, call me crazy, but like the other day I was like, I feel like even with the body fat that I have on, I can still see my muscles, and I feel like it's like even popping. So I'm just kind of like, I think I am putting on more muscle right now as we speak. So I'm like, oh crap, like this is okay. This is a whole thing.
yep. So I was explaining that to a girl yesterday too. Like as long as the shape is there, we're solid. The shape's gone. We need to clean things up. But
Yeah.
if you are in the off season and noticing more shape as you go, that's a very good indicator, other than just the scale, that muscle is increasing. Because you're not putting fat on and continuously just sculpting out the shape of the glute. Like if you're
Yeah.
only putting fat on, it's just gonna get round.
Right.
Like bubble round, not
And
like
no, that makes sense because I was looking at myself and I'm like, but I can still see a visible shape. So that means, okay, we're going in the right direction. So now I'm just being mindful with all this food. I'm like, I probably only need to look at a dumbbell on my upper body day because I'm eating so much food. If I go just a little bit heavy, I'm going to be bursting through the seams. But anywho, good for the glutes because that's what I need it the most. But yeah, so that's where I'm at, guys. That's where I'm feeling. I'm scared to death, but it'll be fine. Are you going to say hi, Rocket? Are you going to say hi? No? All right. Planning tips. So I think for Alexis and I, part of the reason why we were able to adapt into the bodybuilding lifestyle so easily is because we are both type A high functioners, high planners. We plan everything out way far in advance. Like if we even think we might be doing something in 6 months or 8 months, it's like, hey, I'm thinking about this. Put this on the calendar. So I feel that is a benefit for us, and that's why it's part of the reason why we are the athletes that we are. However, for maybe people who aren't planners, it's going to
it's a
teach you
habit
a
that you're
lot.
gonna have to develop.
Yeah.
You
Like
cannot wing
bodybuilding
it
is
in this
not
sport.
something, yeah, you can't wing it. Go ahead, Lexus. You cannot wing it.
No. So I think like as far as planning, the first thing that you have to get under your belt is the schedule.
Mhm.
Overall, it's all a schedule. But like when are you gonna train? When are you gonna eat? When are you gonna sleep? And do that around work, because the majority of us have a job, whether it's a 9 to 5 or coaching, you still have to make time for that, or stay at home moms keeping up with your kids and their shenanigans, and that's like you don't have all day. So um like the life things or the work things fitting in with bodybuilding, in a sense, being another job, as far as like the planning aspect of it. So a lot of you guys listening, this is your hobby, and many people don't want to go to the extent of bodybuilding being full time, um but you still like, I'm just now kind of dabbling with that option, but the many years prior leading up to right now was not that, and it was trying to balance. But you have to treat them as the same as far as when you're like allotting time, I guess. Because time's the biggest thing that will kick people in the butt. It's like the end of the day, you're in prep, you have all of this cardio to do, you slept in this morning and you didn't get some of it done fasted, and now you have an hour of cardio and it's 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
You know, so like if you're in a situation like that, then you have to be realistic and be like, okay, is the cardio more important or is 5 hours of sleep more important? Like
Right.
where do you have to pull from something at that point? You can't get it all done. So prevent that from happening. I think that's probably the biggest thing that will bite people in the tail, is not planning effectively, and then therefore you are short on chicken, or you don't have enough food, or you need to go to the grocery store and you don't, like, it doesn't fit into your schedule. Like especially when it comes to traveling, because I think that like this topic stemmed from a message that we got to the Girl Gains Instagram. And I think part of the question was like with travel and stuff, and that is why people can't travel because you're normal, like it's easy to get into a routine at home where you have all the things. You can run to the store really quick if you're short on food or whatever. But if you're out of town, especially if you've flown and you don't have a vehicle or you're just in an unfamiliar place, it's not as easy and fast to do what you have to do if you're out of something. So I am a list maker when it comes to traveling.
Yeah. We're both very much the same like that. Lists are going to save your life when you have to travel. And it may sound funny, but like write down literally everything that you use throughout the day. At that point, you're so used to it being in your routine that you think it's stupid to write down. However, when it comes time to pack, because it's something that just seems so insignificant, that is going to be the thing that you forget.
Yes. And then you're going to be super angry when you're at the Airbnb the next morning and you don't have blueberries.
I can't tell you how many times I have forgotten my pink Himalayan salt. Now I have one for
Yes.
travel. I just leave it in my travel bag because I always forget. And I'm just like, girl, you know you need this. You cannot go without this. Just keep it in your bag. But those are
You
when
know
you just
how
start
many
feeling.
scales I have acquired because I leave that thing and it's like it's one of the hardest things to pack because you're like measure. I like to like make my last meals that morning before leaving or whatever, especially if I'm driving. Like make the meals, put all the food in the cooler. That's the last thing that you do usually,
Yeah.
and then that scale stays on the freaking counter.
Uh-huh.
Like
I know.
I like Amber said, like write down the things throughout the day. So my list is usually like a day or two long, especially for a big trip or if I'm deep in prep and I'm just forgetful at that point. Like
Yeah.
I start planning further out. This is not something that you want to like try to sit down 20 minutes before packing and go like then you're rushed and you're going to forget something.
Uh-huh.
Um so I usually start it at work if I have some downtime and I'm like, okay, what do I need? And like, because my brain's already in that like
Yeah.
functioning process, like when
Yeah.
you're at work, you can kind of get more tasks done mentally. So that's what I do. And then as I think of things, I add them to it and I'll literally put like 6 pairs of socks, 6 pairs of underwear, like
Mhm.
literally the detailed stuff. Because y'all, travel nursing, when I was doing it the first time when I was going back and forth, your girl would forget underwear every freaking time. I bought so many Walmart underwear packs. And like some things, if you forget it, you can buy it, sure, but it gets expensive if
Yeah.
you're traveling regularly, if you keep doing that, when you could just pack what you have and not have 6 scales.
Absolutely. Something that I do that helps me because like my travel is getting ready to pick up for me. I travel the most June, July, and August. Like those 3 months is if it's not every weekend, it's every other weekend because we're thick in the season. But I have a bag that is just specifically for my travel bag and it's with my dry goods. So in that bag lives stevia, I've got cinnamon, I've got a food scale, my pink Himalayan sea salt, like anything that's a dry good that can just kind of hang out in there, it just lives in that bag. I never pull it out. And the reason being is because those were the things that I constantly always forgot. So it might be beneficial if you are someone who does have to do a lot of traveling like we do, have that bag where it's just like, hey, this is just specifically for travel. You don't pull that scale out, you don't pull any of those things out. So that way it's always there for you.
Yeah, I do basically the same thing with my toiletries bag too. Like I have
Mhm.
my like sometimes I need to fill them back up, but I travel enough that it's like the extra shampoo's not getting nasty.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna use it.
Yep, yep. Same with toiletries too. Like I have my shampoo, my small toothpaste, all those things. Like already having that stuff separate from the things that you use day to day, like in your bathroom or in your kitchen, makes your life so much easier because it's just one less thing that you have to that you have to pack.
Yes. So like that's the biggest point with being successful. And then I think you have to find a routine that fits for you for bodybuilding.
Mhm.
So, um, for me, it looks crazy to everyone, but or to a lot of people, but one, I'm a morning person. So I know that I'm most successful in the morning. I'm most motivated in the morning. Um, and it stresses me out more to like sleep in and then have to feel rushed. So like this morning, the work that I had to do started at 8. So I got up at 5. I had cardio to do. Um, really I only had cardio to do and eat my first breakfast and go. So I probably if I was a bounce out of bed go person, I could have gotten up at 6:45 or 7 maybe,
Mhm.
but that would have felt rushed to me. Like I
Yeah.
still need to get up, take Callie out. I need to have my coffee,
Mhm.
wake up, journal, then I'm going to put my shoes and stuff on. So I'm not even doing that until like after 7. And then I'm going to do my cardio, and then I can come back, stretch, eat, and get on my call, you know? Um, and that's what works for me. Other people are like, I hate fasted cardio. That's not the first thing I want to do in the morning. My coach doesn't say I have to do it. Do a post workout then. I'm starving by the end of my workout. So if I'm gonna skip my cardio, it's gonna be post workout cardio.
Yeah. No,
So I
I
don't
hear
even
you.
put it there anymore. Like I'll do it
Mhm.
in the evening before I'm gonna do it right after training legs.
Yeah, no, and I hear you on that. See, me, I am not a morning person. However, I like to get all my hard tasks done in the morning. So I'm the same way. If I'm up at 5 a.m., like I ain't trying to talk to you like that. I'm just up because for me personally, it just takes me a minute to get it going. It does. Like I'm aware that I am not a morning person. So therefore, it's better for me to wake up an hour earlier than I need to, just so that way I can get my mind together. I don't like rushing in the morning. I don't like rushing drinking my coffee. I will jump up and go ahead and go right into my living room and do my cardio because Alexis got me a bike for Christmas and it has by far been the best thing on the face of the earth because I prefer, like, if I can get my cardio done early in the morning, I would like to do it. Sometimes my schedule might not allow for it, but something I realized I do not like doing, and it was last prep, is doing cardio after glutes. I'm not about it. I don't like it. It's hard for me to push because I have the mindset of I want to give all my energy to my glutes training. That is what matters the most. So I realized whenever I was doing my cardio after, it's just like I'm not pushing. I'm tired. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm tired. I just gave it everything that I had. So yeah, I don't have to do fasted cardio, but in the grand scheme of me being able to push at my cardio at the level that I need and then being able to push for my lift, it works better for me that way.
Yes, absolutely. Um, I didn't make a bullet point, so I'm just going off the top of my head.
Well, okay, here's another one too. Like, I think something that people don't give themselves enough time to do, cooking your food. Again,
Yes.
it goes back to your schedule. For me, like I understand, like I'm blessed, I make my own schedule. However, I know the beginning of my week is slower. So I tend to on Sundays, it's just kind of like my maintenance day. Let me touch up the house, clean up all that, run errands. Then on Mondays, that's typically when I'll go ahead and prep my food because I know for me, once Thursday, Friday, Saturday comes, I'm busy. I'm in salon or I'm at a show. So I like to go ahead and take that time on Monday to go ahead and make all of my food. I've already gone grocery shopping on Sunday most of the time, or sometimes I'll do it Monday morning, wherever the case may be. But I'll go ahead, make all my food so that way I'm good for the rest of the week. Because I know the end of the week is when I work. I'll try to go ahead and always make my schedule to where I can get the majority of my cardio done, get the majority of my lifts done. If I do have to lift on those days, I prefer it to be upper body because it's quicker. It doesn't take me long. It's basically just a pump versus me knowing that, oh my God, I will be stressed out if it is a Friday or a Saturday and I know I have to be in salon from 10 to 6 and I need to go train glutes in the morning before that. That ain't gonna work for me. I will be a disaster. That's just like
Yeah, so like being prepared is important. And I think this is also part of being successful in bodybuilding. I don't even remember what the exact topic of this is. We're kind of getting off onto different
well,
things, but
no,
I
it's
think
planning, but you're being prepared is part of planning. Absolutely. Go ahead.
um in order to be successfully prepared, you also have to be willing to take accountability and understand where you're falling short. Because then you can fix that going forward and see, okay, like this, I got into this situation. What can I do differently to make it better? And running out of food is not somebody else's issue. Um, I've had just DMs that are like, I keep finding myself running out of food, and my coach doesn't seem to be very flexible. And I'm like, girlfriend, did you buy food? Like, your coach doesn't
Yeah.
buy the food.
The coach just tells you what to eat. You got to go get it. Yeah,
Or
no.
like, if you find yourself in a predicament and it's like you're making a meal and you realize you don't have enough chicken for the day and you don't have time to go get it, like you're in a pickle for that day for sure.
Yeah.
But in those scenarios, change it next time. So like
Mhm.
whatever the routine was that led up to this moment can't be the routine next time too.
Absolutely.
So it's like that's where you get the trial and error of like, okay, this worked, this did not work. Don't keep
Mhm.
letting it not working, because then that wasn't correct grammar. But
It's okay.
then it's your fault. Like
Right.
then it's just like, why are you paying a coach, or why are you doing this sport?
Mhm.
And if you can't find something that works that you enjoy and you've tried truly all the ways, you might just not like it.
Might not. So funny. So the last show, I had an athlete message me, and it never fails. Like I'm always putting a fire out for an athlete because they're worried about their times, their schedule, whatever the case may be. So she messaged me. She's like, I'm really concerned. I'm like, what's up? Like, what's your schedule? Because I was doing her makeup at 5:30, and she goes, well, my appointment with you is at 5:30, but I have to eat my first meal at 5. I just don't know how I'm going to plan this out. And at first, I was just kind of like, are you messing with me right now? And so I said, Amber, she's like a couple of days out. I think this is like her pro debut. Like, let me just help her out. I said, here's what you're going to do. I said, you're going to wake up at 4:30. You're going to eat that meal at 5. You're going to call your Uber at 5:05, 5:10. You're going to eat that meal. If you're not done with that meal, you're going to take that meal with you in the car, in the Uber, and you're going to eat it. And then you'll get to me at 5:30 and I'll do your makeup. I said, you're thinking way too hard. She's like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. I'm like, yes. Yeah, yes. Like,
And
again,
I even have moments like that where it's like you're worried about a scenario because you don't know how it's going to play out, and then when it plays out you're like, "Oh, I was stressed for no reason."
and after the fact, she's like, I was just stressing about the schedule and the day. I said, girls eat while I'm doing their makeup all the time. I said, you have to understand, I'm a bodybuilder too, so I get it. I said, but what we're not going to do is stress about meal timing. But again, it's just kind of like, yes, because your timing does matter. However, don't make it more difficult than what it needs to be either. And I think that's what a lot of y'all do, especially when it comes to traveling with your food. Like, well, what do you? I'm like, you cook it the night before, you let it cool, you put it in the freezer, you take it with you. Like, don't make it more difficult than what it needs to be.
Yes. And scenarios like that do happen. But the better that you plan, that's why we said the planning is like where it roots at. The better that
Mm-hmm.
you plan, the least amount of those scenarios that you fall into. So then when they do come up, you have some kind of a brain to process them. Because if you feel frazzled all day long, that is usually what ends up leading to like constantly messing things up. You know, when you're like,
Yeah.
you screw up your morning and then you're frazzled and then it carries with you all day. One, and those, like, you have to like breathe and try to let it go. But if you can like slowly nip the things that like throw curveballs in your schedule,
Mm-hmm.
it makes your life easier. It's work. It's not overnight, but 6 years from now, I can tell you that it makes your life easier.
Uh, Way
Just don't
easier.
keep trying to make things that don't work work.
Mhm, mhm. That was like junior, yeah, it was junior Nats. Again, it just came from nerves. And again, I'm like a strict planner. Like I know show day, I'm like, okay, well, I'm waking up at this time. I'm checking in at this time. I'll start my hair at this time. So I have my whole schedule and I got my meal one. And for some reason, and it was, well, no, I was just so frazzled. And so I forgot that for my meal one, it's not a normal meal one, and that everything was just basically cut into fifths. I ate my full blown normal meal one, didn't think anything of it. I go check in, and Jay's looking at my stuff, and she goes, "You had all this morning?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then she looked at me like, "You know better." And I thought about it, and I was like, I need to slow down. I was like, oh God, I've never done anything like that before. But because I was so frazzled and not just in my right mind, ended up being, it wasn't the end of the world. I mean, thankfully, I'm the last of the day. So it didn't really have like a huge impact on me like that. But yeah, when you are trying to plan things with a frazzled mind, sometimes you might make those silly little mistakes.
It's like, all right, well, you ain't eating for the rest of the day.
Basically, yeah. She was like, "What are you drinking there?" I was like, "Coffee." She's like, "Well, that's it, and no more food." And I was like, "Okay." That's literally what happened.
That's
So let me think. Food planning, talked about. Oh, so something that I've had to really play around with is training time. So I used to be a training in the morning type girly. I don't like training at night. That's never been, just like mentally I don't like doing it, but just from a physical standpoint, I have found that it's better for me to train these days midday or later in the day. I guess because I just have more food in the tank, I'm stronger, like I can do more. So for me, that has been an adjustment. However, I'm thinking of, okay, right now, it's not about what I like and I prefer. I have to do what's going to give me the best results. When I've been training in the morning, I don't feel like I've been getting the best results. However, if I go midday or later in the day, the results are better. So I have to adjust my day and my schedule to that.
yeah. I tend to go like midday to afternoon. Like I'm gonna eat my pre-workout today at like 4:30 and then go at 5:30. Um, I like training in the mornings. I usually can't do it consistently. Like one day I feel great. If I try to do it back to back days, the second day I'm not as recovered as I would be if I did back to back afternoon sessions. So that's why I haven't like pushed to really get them done early in the morning. Because I could shuffle my schedule for the most part if I wanted to. But I found the same thing, like having a few meals really helps.
I found like my sweet spots like between 12:30 and 4:30. That's a good time for me. So just adapting to that, because that was something that I personally underestimated until I was trying to do what I had typically been doing. But that's the thing too. Like sometimes when planning, if you're doing something and you see it's not working, adjust. Don't force it, because you wanna make sure you're getting the best bang for your buck.
Yes.
Oh, and then, well, that I'll go off on a tangent for that, and we've done that. I don't want to get into planning for like show day stuff, because that's like a
No.
whole nother topic within
Yeah.
itself. I mean, I think that's basically it for the most part. Like, I think people probably, the planning for travel is the biggest one, and I would just say with
Yeah.
that, don't make it more difficult than what it needs to be.
And I was gonna say, to like add on to that a little tail end, make your life easier also with food. So like
Hmm.
um what I've been doing, like on the, you guys know I've been traveling a lot recently. Like a lot of flights. I'm a freaking professional flyer at this
Look at
point.
you.
Um but like today my carbs have mostly been like oats and cream of rice. You don't want old pre-cooked cream of rice. So like when I'm traveling, I'm just eating rice cakes. So I've like
Mhm.
calculated out what my meals equal, and it's like 3.5 rice cakes. So I just put a sleeve or half a sleeve in my backpack is good for the day. And that you can eat on a plane easily. You'll make some crumbs on your shirt, but it's a lot
Yeah,
easier than like old cold cream of rice is
for
gross. And
sure.
it's kind of a mess to eat.
Well, and I was gonna say a lot of the problems I feel, and this might hurt feelings, I come in love, I promise you. Stop eating for pleasure and prep, okay? Like you're gonna get to a certain point where there is no pleasure. Your food is to fuel your body. But also with that, if you're traveling and trying to make a gourmet meal while traveling, please stop. Keep it simple. My meals when I travel, literally chicken, rice, green beans, ground turkey, rice cake, shredded lettuce. There is nothing gourmet about it. And I think that is what's holding a lot of you guys up. You think that this meal needs to be like this 5-star Gordon Ramsay meal. No, baby, that's not prep. That's not how it rolls.
Yeah, and like if you have something that you're picky about, you can make it work,
Yes.
but don't do that every meal. Like the one meal that I refuse to compromise, if at all possible, and I've done it mm, probably not in the last year and a half. Um, I love my breakfast meal. It's my favorite meal. I will not change it. I don't mind eating cold eggs if I have to, but I don't want it to be a shake. And I certainly, absolutely do not want it to be chicken at 6 o'clock in the morning. So,
I haven't done that in so long now. I couldn't imagine doing it. I used to. Now I'm like, mm-mm.
but I'm fine with pre-cooking it. And if I have to eat it like room temperature or cold, then that's fine. So like that, it just, if anything, it's just kind of bulky. I did get these cool containers at, TJ Maxx that like is got separation, but one side's bigger than the other, so it's perfect for my oats on one side and my eggs on the other.
Oh, yeah.
But like I'm picky about that, but I make it work. The rest of it, in order to fit in my backpack, though, has to be chicken and green beans in a baggie. I can do 3 of those on top of my meal container in the meal part, and then in the big pocket is my rice cakes, and I'm good for the
Yeah.
day. So
Yep.
like that's what works for me. And I am a little bit picky, but I compromise on the food in the baggies in order to have my oats and eggs.
Absolutely. Like when I travel, like my biggest compromise is probably with my proteins, and just simply because like I like to eat a lot of seafood. That's what I like. So I like shrimp, I like tilapia, I like salmon. However, if I'm going to be going for a couple of days and I know I'm going to be in a hotel, seafood can get sketchy by the time
Yeah.
you get to like day 2.5, 3. So at that point, I'm like, okay, girl, you're probably not going to have your seafood. So you're probably going to be eating a lot of chicken breast. Okay, fine. It's okay. Do I prefer to have my salmon for my first meal? Yes. But I know if I'm gone for 3 days and I'm not able to cook any food, it's going to have to be chicken and it's going to be okay.
Yes.
And I believe, yep, that's, you got anything else? I don't have anything.
No, I think that's about it.
All right, y'all, that's going to be it for today's episode. We're going to put up a question box, or if you haven't seen the question box, just go ahead and send it over to the Girl Games podcast episode, well, Instagram, because next episode is going to be a Q&A. We want to start doing Q&As once a month because we find those to be very fun. Go ahead, hit Alexis up for posing. She's doing bikini, wellness posing. She's also doing coaching, so bikini, wellness, and lifestyle. You're doing lifestyle correct still, yep. So hit
Yep.
her up for coaching. I have some spots available for when this is going up. This is going up on Wednesday. I have one more spot available for Girl Power if it hasn't already gotten booked. I haven't checked. Full schedule is available on my website. And that's it. We'll chat with y'all next week.
Bye, guys.